Okay, it seems like we are recording.
Awesome. So hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to our first youth STEAM night titled The Spirit of Light with Paseo artist Morgan Barnard. I'm Matt Thomas. I'm the executive director of the Paseo project, and thanks for joining us. I'm excited to kick off this evening's program, and it's so great to see everyone here. We're going to have this live recorded as well as documented online for anyone to come back and view. This is a new platform for us here at Paseo, so please excuse us as we make our way through the technology. First off, I want to thank our donors and our community that have supported our organization and the education program over the years, so a big thank you. We would not be here without you. The Paseo is a registered 501c3 nonprofit, and since 2014, we've worked to transform community with art and art with community. And so I wouldn't really be doing my job if I didn't mention that donations are always appreciated. Rita, if you could just put in the chat box our link to our donate page on our website. Thanks. The Paseo team is on the call. I think everyone's here. Their tireless dedication to this work keeps our organization alive. So a big thank you to Rita O'Connell, our Director of Development, and Jana Grainer, our Programs Manager. From the beginning, the Paseo has always introduced national and international cutting-edge artists with the Taos community, not only through the festival, but with our numerous education partners, starting with Agnes Chavez with the STEM Arts Lab, our friends over at Twirl, teachers from Vista Grande, the staff at Dream Tree, and of course, UNM Taos, to name just a few. And this year, we're really excited to work with Karen Moulton. As we dive into our virtual world of online curriculum in this time of COVID, we know we are in good hands. Karen is co-founder and former director of the Taos Academy Charter School. She's been an educator for 15 years in both public and private schools, and she brings an understanding of the importance for students to have the 21st century leadership skills necessary to succeed in the modern world. And Karen has a history of educational leadership in Taos, and as well has a personal interest in the arts. So thank you so much, Karen. And I'm excited to have Morgan Barnard here with us. It's been a pleasure to get to know Morgan and his work through multiple collaborations. I think it started with Paseo 2019, then Paseo 2020, and now the education program today. So I know you all are in for a treat. As I said, this is our first Paseo Youth STEAM Night. We're hoping maybe to do it quarterly as we move along in this virtual world of online. It is a live workshop, and it'll be recorded and posted on our website, paseoproject.org/STEAM. And Rita, if you could pop that in the chat, or we'll put that in the chat. So you can find it, you can come back to it, and please do share it. As well, please be in touch with any feedback or suggestions about today's presentation. You can email us at paseoproject.org. So I'm done. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Karen.
Thanks, Matt. I'm very excited to be joining Paseo this year. As Matt said, it's kind of a weird year to be joining in the time of this pandemic. In the past, we've been able to go into classrooms, and at Taos Academy, I worked with Agnes in the Paseo project, and was able to do those live projects, and certainly a preferable way, but we are troubleshooting and doing the best we can with the online thing. One of the things that we're doing is working with the Paseo artists to create Google Classrooms and curriculum for classroom teachers. And so not to burden them with more things to do, but to work hand in hand in their classrooms so that they can use our curriculum however it fits into what they do. So that means that it can be used in a synchronous way, asynchronous. It could be used with the entire classroom or just with a special population of kids. Teachers can do it, for a day, a week, a month. I help them with the curriculum and then work with Paseo artists to create projects and curriculum that surround have to do with the work that the Paseo artists are doing. So tonight is about Morgan Barnard, and we are doing projects based on the work that he does. We also include some math or science or technology lessons in there that work with whatever the classroom teacher is doing in their classroom. This spring, we're going to be in 5 or 6 of the local schools, and we hope to get more. So if you know anyone who's interested, please check out our work on the website, have them communicate with us. We'd love to get more teachers and more schools helping out. So we do the Google Classrooms. We're hoping, as Matt said, to do the STEAM nights, perhaps quarterly. We're posting the projects, so we'll have this recording. And so we'll post the projects on the website so that if you don't do the Google Classroom, you miss the STEAM night, you can still go to the Paseo website and check out the project and do it on your own. And then also hopefully this student gallery, whether that be an online forum, maybe at some point we could do a projection, and certainly we're hoping that once things settle down that we could do, you know, some live student shows. And so that's kind of how the education program is developing now in the time of COVID. And just been very excited to work with Morgan and his light projection work. It's just fabulous. Please go to his website, check out his work. Morgan is a digital artist and a designer. He works in the area of public art and interactive media. He has immersive installations and live cinema, creating work that combines interactivity, data visualization, real-time systems, and experimental digital techniques for unique experiences for audiences. And at this time, we have a little bit of a video as an intro. And so it's about 5-7 minutes long. I'll go ahead and play that video, and then Morgan, you can take it over after the video. Okay, share. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if I need a permission for that, but let's check it out. Is that?
There it is.
Yeah, it's up. Oh wait, but that's not the video.
Not the video.
Yeah, that's not the video I want. Hold on, sorry. Wrong video. Let me get to there we go. Okay, and full screen.
So Karen, you have to
hang on, there you go. Okay.
So if we're not seeing your video, if you could stop share and re-share that video.
Okay. Sounds good. Stop share. Okay. Okay. Come on, get to the share. There we go. Spare the light, maybe. So we go. Share. Yeah?
That's the one.
Okay. And zoom to fill. What do I want? How do I get it to be full screen, or is that full enough?
I think that's fine.
That's good. Okay. All right, here we go.
Hi, my name is Morgan Barnard. I'm a Vital Spaces visiting artist, and I'm going to show you how to make short experimental videos with your camera phone or webcam. We're going to use our cameras in interesting ways, not just to capture reality, but we're going to view our cameras as expressive image creation devices. We'll explore the interaction of lights, materials, and the optical systems of our cameras to create abstract visual imagery. As an artist, I've always been interested in light, lenses, and cameras to create imagery. My dad is a filmmaker and my grandfather was a photographer. I grew up playing with 35mm film strips and old editing equipment. I was fascinated by the interplay of light and shadow to create imagery. In public art projects, I use lighting to visualize environmental data, like the Aurora Clouds project at the Biopark. It uses NOAA space weather data to create a dynamic lighting display for the Penguin Chill exhibit. As a digital artist, I have created projects that use cameras as a way to capture, sample, and interpret light. The lens becomes a creative tool for expression by manipulating the light coming into the camera. An ongoing project of mine called In Camera is focused on creating content in real time, on the fly. I start the project with no content, then I use the camera to capture light in interesting ways to make video samples for creating a live visual montage of abstract imagery. In this project, we're going to do something similar. We're going to work with the camera to create some experimental visual imagery by using light sources and materials we find around the house. This project will focus on creating the content, but you can take this footage and create edits or incorporate it into other video projects, or you can just share single clips on social media just as they are. Step 1, select your camera. A mobile phone camera will work great. Even an older phone might give you interesting results. If you have an external web camera, you can use that as well. One important thing here is to look for an application for your camera, if it's on your phone, where you have manual control over the various mechanics of the camera, like focus, exposure, maybe shutter speed. Step 2, find some objects that interact with light. Maybe you have a prism or some glass containers. Those will work well for putting in front of the lens to help distort the light. You can also explore materials like fabrics or reflective materials. Step 3, find some objects that emit light. Keychains with LEDs, headlamps, desk lamps, the sun. Think about how light and shadow interact. I often observe how light enters buildings to create intricate patterns on the wall. I've been documenting these types of interactions for a long time. Step 4, locate a stage. Find somewhere in your house where you can set up a light, have access to some materials, maybe that you can control the light in this space, and start experimenting with the relationships between the camera, the light, and any of the other objects you have. Focus on creating images that you can't normally create with a camera. What kind of worlds can you create by placing the camera up close to a strange surface, or projecting light through an object, or finding ways to create your own effects like you might find in an Instagram filter? This is your opportunity to create a unique visual style by controlling how light enters the lens of the camera. We're going to make abstract imagery that conveys a mood or a theme. Some of the themes to think about during this time of year are renewal, growth, spring, light. The light in the early evening can be especially interesting. Maybe there's some ways to capture it as it comes into your house. Think about filming as editing. Oftentimes I will count during my shots to make them the right length for the project. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Starting and stopping the clips as they record could be a good way to document certain moments or create certain moods. Video is a very modular medium, meaning that its parts can be rearranged to create a new sequence. During the editing process, you can get more specific with this and develop a way to structure your videos further. Think of ways to add pattern or rhythms to video by creating a sequence of regular clip length. One example might be 5 clips that are each 5 seconds long. It creates a very modular format that is loopable because the beginning and the end are different. And it's a fun way to get used to working with your editing system to make precise edits. Now it's your turn to create something completely new that you can call your own. Many of the apps we use allow you to apply filters and effects, but this exercise will put you in control of creating new imagery. You can either share these clips straight to social media, or you can work in an editing program to create edited videos. Experiment and explore. Create your own unique visual worlds.
So if you are planning on, oops, wait a minute. Sorry about that. No. Okay, there it is. If you're planning on doing the project this evening or when you're watching this recording, this would be a good time to either pull up your editing software, or if you don't have editing software, we suggest OpenShot, and you can go to openshot.org, or the link is also on the Paseo website. You may want to just take a moment to pull that up and let it be up, loading onto your computer while we hear from Morgan. Morgan, over to you.
Hello, and thanks for having me, everyone. It's really a great night here to share with you some of the work I've been doing and talk with you about this project. I just want to mention Vital Spaces was the group that I'm a part of, where last spring, when the pandemic hit, they worked to get artists into classrooms and do some presentations. So that's where that video came from. And it was a great opportunity to try something different. I'm a teacher. I teach at Highlands University in Las Vegas. I've taught various places, New York, New Zealand, California. And this last year has been, probably one of the most challenging teaching times that I've had, having to adapt quickly. And so I've been really used to this kind of synchronous format where we're delivering the classes in real time. So it was nice to kind of put some of my filmmaking experience together to make that video and kind of, put everything together into a format that anyone could watch anywhere. So it's great to kind of come back to this with a kind of a hybrid approach to building a curriculum around this work. And just a little bit about my experience creating these kinds of works. I mentioned it a little bit in the video there, but I've grown up around image creation technology. So from when I was a kid, I would go with my father to his job as a film editor, and there were strips of film around, and he'd set me and my brother up in front of film editing equipment, and we would play with light and imagery and just kind of explore and experiment. And I've always been interested in photography. When I was in high school, doing traditional darkroom photography and learning how to use cameras. So there's something about creating an image right there in front of you that happens when you are in the darkroom. The image just appears. And so working digitally, I'm kind of always striving to find a way to work in real time and kind of have some of those similar kinds of experience where you see the content appear right in front of you. And so kind of fast forward many years to when I was teaching in New Zealand, and I had a performance coming up, and I actually I dislocated my thumb, and I was in a cast on my right hand. So I couldn't really operate the computers the way that I wanted to. I had to shift over to my left hand. So I came up with this in-camera project where I was kind of generating content with the camera. And it really brought me back to working in a way that was very real time and immediate. And so that kind of got me back into the image creation process using traditional cameras and things along those lines. So since then, I've done that project in different ways, and the technology has also advanced quite a lot. So it's made it a lot easier to work in that format, and it's opened up new different opportunities. So over the past several years, I've been doing more of this in-camera project and doing more real-time projects. And last 2019 at the Paseo, had the opportunity to work with Taos True Kids 1 to work with some middle school and high school students to kind of put on a projection mapped version of this, where we presented this work on a sort of an odd space near the Taos Plaza that was sort of a forgotten space. And I'm kind of interested in that and kind of taking these forgotten spaces and bringing them to life. So the students captured footage from the Paseo. They created drawings that were brought in real time. So we were really doing this kind of real-time image generation process together. And it was really fun for them to see this work displayed and to participate. And the content was focused around acequias. And so there was some great water imagery that we incorporated into it to create this kind of, dynamic, ever-changing installation. And it was quite a lot of fun. And working with the Paseo has been great. I originally, came and as a visiting the Paseo and looking at all the amazing artworks, and then to be involved with the actual festival in 2019, 2020 has been just a really great experience. And so I'm really happy to be part of this evening, this STEAM night. I think it's really important to put the arts into the STEM. It's so critical to think of ways where students can express themselves and find connections between art and science. I just taught a photography class this last semester, and we really looked at, the history of science and photography. And I think there's such an amazing history there, and then also an amazing future for where imaging is going. So it's just a great field to be in, and I'm happy to share this with you this evening. So we have a PowerPoint. Should we switch over to the PowerPoint now? Would that be
Yeah, well, right before we do that, you just segued oh so nicely, thank you, Morgan, into the whole STEAM thing, the science, technology, engineering, art, math. And so we thought that we would just do a quick little science lessons, the science of light, to illustrate, that science aspect of the art that we're doing tonight. And it's also something to give you a little taster of what we do in our education program, that we are combining those STEAM principles with the art that the Paseo artists are doing. And so we have a brief video, and then there is a link to a crossword puzzle that is also on the Paseo website that is about the video. After the video, I will flash briefly to that so you can find it if you don't find it on the website. And then, then from there, Morgan, we're going to go into our slideshow and our step-by-step on how to do this project. I did the project. It was really fun, and it's definitely cool. All right, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen again. Let me know how it goes. Here's this one. Here we go. Can everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see if you can hear it. Yeah? Yeah, you can hear it?
Light. It's all around us. But what is it? Where does it come from? And what does light have to do with color? Light is a kind of energy that travels in waves. It is made when matter is heated up or gains energy. Excess energy is released in part as light. This energy is called electromagnetic radiation. When we talk about light, we usually mean visible light, which is the light that we can see with our eyes. But there are more types of electromagnetic radiation that are invisible to us, including radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, and gamma rays. Scientists can detect and measure invisible radiation with special tools. Together with visible light, all these types of radiation are called the electromagnetic spectrum. All electromagnetic radiation travels in waves, but different types have different wavelengths. The wavelength of electromagnetic radiation, or light, is connected to how much energy it has. Light with a longer wavelength, like radio waves, has less energy, while light with a shorter wavelength, like gamma rays, has more energy. Visible light makes up only a tiny part of the electromagnetic spectrum, but it includes every color we can see. The most important source of light here on Earth is the sun. We call ordinary sunlight white light, but it actually includes all the colors of visible light. These colors can be revealed when white light goes through a prism. When light passes through a prism or something like it, it slows down a little bit and bends. Some parts of the light slow more than others, and the light spreads out into the colors of the spectrum. If you want to see all of the colors in the visible light spectrum, look no further than a rainbow. Rainbows are made when water droplets in the air bend sunlight much like a prism. Usually when we talk about a rainbow, we say it is made of 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Each color has a different wavelength. Red has the longest wavelength in the spectrum of visible light, and violet has the shortest wavelength. All the other colors have wavelengths in between the two. The colors of a rainbow are always in the same order because the colors are arranged according to their wavelengths. Red is always on the outside because red has the longest wavelength, and violet is always on the inside because violet has the shortest wavelength. Electromagnetic radiation with a wavelength outside the visible light spectrum is invisible to our eyes. Light with a longer wavelength than the reddest red our eyes can see is called infrared light. Light with a shorter wavelength than the most violet violet we can see is called ultraviolet. When we look at an object, we are actually seeing the light that is bouncing off of it. A green leaf looks green because the leaf absorbs all of the colors in the spectrum except for green, which it reflects. When the green light enters our eyes, our brain tells us it looks green. Things that look white are reflecting almost all of the visible light shining on them, and things that look black are absorbing almost all of the visible light shining on them. Light, both visible and invisible, is all around us. It travels from its source as a wave, bringing energy with it. Without light, there would be no colors. Take a look at the world around you and remember, everything you can see is just different wavelengths of reflected light. Goodbye till next time.
Okay. All right. And then if you want to challenge yourself as to if you have, what you heard in that video, there is a crossword puzzle. And let me see if I can, not sure how, no, well, it's on here. It is on the website, the Paseo website, and also, let's see.
I just dropped it into the chat as well.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Rita. It's in the chat if you want to go to it, and you can do it later. You can do it now, whenever you want. And let me see. I'm going to go to our slideshow. Ta-da! Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Can I make it full screen from current slide? Okay. Design process. Okay, so this is the point where you should maybe go on a scavenger hunt throughout your house and maybe try to, well, you'll decide whether you want to do, like Morgan said in his video, the webcam, or you can use your camera phone or an actual camera, whatever you have for recording. You want a variety of light sources. So there's a couple examples there: flashlight, a lamp, a laser pointer, headlamp, any of those. And then also a variety of objects that reflect or distort light, or something that perhaps is transparent or translucent, like a thin fabric that would just allow some light through, but maybe not all the light through. Again, here's a short list of possible things: mirror, glasses, vases, CD, shiny metal, prism. I think, Morgan, did you have some things that you wanted to share with us, or is that later?
Yeah, well, I can just say a couple quick things here. Yeah, I think the idea here is just to look for things around the house that are usable. I think any kind of camera can work. Some of the, if it's like an older camera, that can kind of be cool. I will point out with the laser pointer, you want to be careful not to point the laser pointer directly into the camera lens, just as a safety precaution there. But you can use it for shining through other objects to create different effects. Yeah, so I have a few things here. I could show you a couple things that I have around just really quickly. Hold on. So over here, I have just a kind of little glass object that it's like a little prism for the mirror, a little crystal. I have a plastic prism here, which we saw in the video about slowing down wavelengths of light and sort of shaping the light. I have this little, it's from a kid's toy. It's kind of a little multifaceted lens, so that can be kind of fun. I have a weird little crystal ball that is also interesting. And then I love these little jam jars because they have kind of a nice texture and pattern to them. And then light sources here. I have a book light for reading, and I have a little touch light which just turns on and off. And so just a couple things that were around the house, but you could find something like a maybe you have a headlamp for camping. Maybe even a lot of phones have an LED on it, so you could use that light as well. So yeah, the idea is just anything around there. I have some tin foil over here and some different papers as well to experiment with.
Cool. Yeah, so just find your variety of light sources, your variety of objects, and then also, as Morgan was saying in his video, you want to find a space that could be your studio. When I did the project, I was in a bathroom because I had a great mirror in there to use, and then there was really nice texture on the wall. So, as you're bouncing stuff off, different lights look different on a smooth wall surface, or sometimes they have a, bit of texture on them on some sheetrock. So as you're looking for your objects and your various light sources, check out some walls and some spaces that you can play with the light. Did you want to say anything about that, Morgan, about what spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I think somewhere where you can maybe control the light a little bit. Obviously, in the evening, you have a little more control over that. But also in the daytime, you could go outside and experiment with actual sunlight. But yeah, for working at home, another thing to consider is if you have any maybe. Depends on what you're trying to do. If you're catching the light on a surface, maybe some paper or a wall texture. Also, you could use black paper or black fabric if you want to kind of remove any background and focus more on the objects. Yeah, so, I think just finding a space where you can have things set up. I have a little table over here to the left where I have some objects set up, and with this camera set up. So I think just finding somewhere, maybe somewhere where there's already some light, maybe there's a desk lamp around, or maybe out in the garage where there's like a work area. I think it really just depends on what you have access to.
Yeah, great. All right. So, yep, this is kind of our step-by-step. You know, we talked about your variety of light sources and your objects. So if you've done your scavenger hunt, you have number one, all your items gathered together. And then, you know, it's really just experimentation and playing with it. And again, Morgan, you know, jump in here about, you know, you were saying, you know, you could do it on a black background or walls, you know, try out or outside. You know, that this slide, it describes a lot of what Morgan was just saying. To just now is the time to experiment. You could take still photos, you can take short videos, because you can put those together in your editing program, whether it be OpenShot or a video editing program that you already have. Sometimes a still shot gives you very cool angles and you know, rainbows and, you know, different types of light. You know, certainly when I did it, I kind of played with both. And, you know, you probably, you know, this is a project, I mean, you know, if you're doing this on the recording, you can do it as long as you want, you know, but, you know, when we do the STEAM ones live, we encourage to do just shorter videos. But yeah, play with that. What advice do you have for participants here, Morgan?
Yeah, well, something interesting you can think of as well with this is, you know, here we are on Zoom, right? And you know, one of the things we've seen with Zoom is people putting, you know, backgrounds behind them. So that's one of the things you could kind of experiment with here is, you know, especially with stills, is you can create still backgrounds, and I'll put something in here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is, you know, more of a moment that I captured in a house. It was just sort of, you know, the way the light was coming in and bouncing off objects, it created this background. So, you know, that's one thing you can think about with this project. You could kind of spice up your Zoom background and create a really cool customized experiment that, you know, it's not something that anyone else will have. So you can really do that. You can also do, you know, you could do video for that. I found a little video here from one of my in-camera projects. And so this is, you know, just some kind of interesting out of focus kind of light experiment going on in the background. So, you know, I think some other things to think about here, let's see. Yeah, so play with the effects of the light before you photograph it. So think of yourself as an optical scientist, right? You are experimenting, you're trying things out. I think for me, myself as an artist, I think that kind of experimental approach is what really drives me. So, and that's really at the core of a lot of scientific inquiries, having an idea and trying it out. And so I encourage you to experiment before you film, because you know, there's going to be some things you have to set up. Maybe you need some kind of a support structure to hold things up, you know, or something like that. I've found, you know, my son has a lot of Legos, so oftentimes I'll dive into his Legos if I need to make something to hold up an object or something like that. So you'll have to get a little crafty with what you have around you to be able to work with all these elements.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and great comparison. I think all artists are scientists, because, you know, you definitely have to do that experimentation. Good point. Good point. And then, you know, your final project, this, you know, this slide is more geared towards doing, you know, a brief video, you know, during our STEAM evenings. But again, if you are watching this as, you know, the recording on the website, you can make it as long or as short as you like. And so you're going to drop your stills and your videos into your video editing program. If you don't know anything about editing, OpenShot is very user-friendly and intuitive. And basically you just drag and drop your photos, your videos. You can add a title, you can add music, and again, pretty easy, and it's a free online editing program. There's the website there, and it's also on the Paseo website. And what words of wisdom do you have for us on the final project, Morgan?
Yeah, well, it's I've been involved in editing for a long time. When I went to school, I edited on film, which is like the traditional means of editing this kind of stuff. Nowadays, things have changed so drastically that we're taking images and video on the phone, and there's even programs on the phone where you could use to edit your clips together, or on a laptop or a desktop computer. And there's a lot of different things out there. OpenShot, I think, is really good. If you're on a Mac, there's iMovie, which will be on the phone as well. And you've also seen this with some of the platforms like Instagram. I think they have some ways you can assemble clips together in different ways. So there's a lot of software out there that you can experiment with. And something that I would suggest if you're new to editing is to explore this concept of metric editing. And I talked about that in the video. And that's basically you're making the edits based on not the content of what's happening, not the movement of the images, but just strictly on the time of each clip. So you could take this to any way you want. I think it has sort of parallels to things like haiku, where you've got a sort of pattern or a rhythm to syllables that are sort of laid out for you as a map. And so you could do that yourself. You could say, I'm going to make a video where each shot is only 1 second long. And so you start assembling it with shots that are 1 second long, or maybe 5 seconds long. You can play around with the length and see what kind of pace that you want to explore. But that can take away a lot of the choices you have to make editing. And it also helps to learn how to use the editing tools with precision. So you can figure out how to make that clip 5 seconds long exactly. And it's sort of a rule set that you can apply to your editing to take out some of the creative decisions that you might have to make.
And would you vary that? Like you said, I love that you use the analogy of a haiku. Would you like do certain amount of clips that are like 3 seconds, and then maybe do a couple more that are like 7 seconds, and then go back to 3 seconds, kind of a la haiku?
Yeah. I mean, it's totally open there. You could really explore that. I've done some things like that, kind of taking the haiku form and translating it to video. But I think that you could, and that based on the speed of the clips, then you start to get into all kinds of rhythmic connections between the clips. So you're actually creating a rhythm by changing the speed of the edits.
Yeah.
So it kind of gets into even ways of thinking about music or other sort of time-based mediums.
And I think, do we do the music next? Put them in the movie. All right. Yes, so I think these instructions follow what we've been saying, that you upload them. You can also crop them, adjust them. And then I have on this slide, and also again on the website, and Rita, I don't know if you're still on, to drop it into the chat, this free music archive. There's lots of free music, but you want be careful about open source and copyright info. But How about advice on when you add music and wanting your visuals to go with your music? What do you have? What kind of advice do you have for that, Morgan?
One thing to look out for, even with the Free Music Archive, it says free music in its title. It's technically, free. You can download it and use it. But a lot of the licenses on there are a little bit restrictive, just in terms of what the output is. I think if you're a student, this work would not necessarily be commercial, so you have the ability to use it for educational purposes. If you are looking towards creating something that will have some kind of commercial component, then you need to look into licensing that music. And sometimes what can happen now with, if you use licensed music and put it onto YouTube, it can get flagged, or ads can get inserted into your video. So it's something to think about, and to really research the music that you find, even on sites like Free Music the Free Music Archive. And I'd also encourage you, maybe it's another video later, but making your own music or sounds. So
yeah, you could play around with sounds instead of music. That would be very cool.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to think about when working with music is music sets it really sets a tone, and you can experiment with this by finding music with different intensity, different speeds, different sort of dynamic qualities. And one thing I like to do is put a couple different tracks of music in my editing program, and then you usually have a way where you can turn off tracks. So you could listen, watch your video with different tracks behind it to see what works best.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also look for the kind of music you're working with. It will have possibly a rhythm, built into it. And so you can look at that that might be something you could consider for edit points. So that might introduce you to another kind of editing where you're changing the edit, based on the beats in the music. Maybe it's more like a music video where it's tightly synchronized, or it's maybe offset in a syncopated way with the music. So music and imagery together are just a great combination. So there's a lot of things you can do to play off the music, or maybe create an opposition to the music. I think that's just part of the experimentation.
Yeah, you can create a mood, you can tell a story with the images and the music, and what other sounds you choose to put in there. Yeah, that's where it really, you take all those pieces and to create something that either tells a story or creates a mood, or that, to me, that's the interesting part, is taking all the pieces and then putting them all together and seeing what you come up with. Really fun and exciting. All right, let's see. Oh, and then actually, so piece of the artistic process, as well as a scientific process, is to reflect on what happened there. When you're a scientist, you're analyzing what happened in your experiment, and it's kind of the same with artists. And so, as part of our education program, we encourage you to kind of check out, what was your experience like? What do you like about your project? What would you change? What was challenging? So that next time you do it, better, that sort of thing. Do you use that, Morgan? And what would you say about that to any participants who are creating their project, and then that whole reflective piece after? What's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a really important part. I mean, it's important in the classroom when I'm working with students to have them reflect on their process, and to share their work with others, to get some feedback as well. I think that's an important part as well. Personally, I do this in different ways, because sometimes for me, it's good to have a little bit of time before reflecting, but other times it's good to really do it right away. And you know, this last year I've done a few sort of live streaming projects where I've just streamed some kind of live visuals out on the internet. And it's interesting because when you're putting it out there, you don't really have that ability to you know, what would, you know, how to change something. It's already out there. So but that's always, I think, a critical thing is, you know, what's next, what worked, and what can you do to improve your experience. And there's the experience as the creator, and then that might be maybe a more critical view on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then there's also, once you share it and it's out in the world, what kind of responses or interactions happen in that point. But I think these 4 questions, I think, really lead to a good way to think about how you approach this project and can maybe inform further explorations.
Yeah, and speaking of sharing, on that last slide, I forgot to say, you know, anything that you create from this recording or the Google Classrooms, please feel free to share it on social media and hashtag Paseo project so we can find it and you know, and start to create our gallery of participant work. I'm going to stop sharing that. Any final thoughts? I'm gonna maybe talk a little bit about the next project coming up for Paseo, but Morgan, I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of wind things up. Any final words of wisdom for folks creating their project?
You know, I think well, what we watched the science video we watched, I thought was really nice, and it talked about light being a wave, you know, and I find that to be really interesting because we don't necessarily experience it as that. So I think in your experiments with light, it's just like taking into consideration, you know, the sort of the physicality of light. You know, it's something that it's energy that is constantly coming at us from the sun, and we have an opportunity to kind of experiment with it in different ways. So I think maybe it could be maybe a meditative process for you out there. You could kind of just get in the zone with a couple of objects and really think about light and about how you can use it to create imagery. And I just encourage you to you know, try different things out, you know, see what kinds of objects work, what kind of objects don't, and be playful with it, have fun in the process. I think that's a really important aspect to this, is that it should be fun. So
yeah, for sure. I had a blast on mine. So yeah, I encourage everybody to try it out. It's something to do in time of COVID. We're here in the holiday times. Like you say in your video, light is about renewal and regeneration, and you know, we have, you know, all kinds of candles and crazy holiday lights and such right now. It's kind of a perfect time to be playing with this project, seriously.
well, that actually brings me to an interesting point. Just we just set up our Christmas tree, and we've got the lights, and it's you know, we got this just kind of multicolored light strand, but the shadows that it projects on the wall are really cool. So it's like we spent all this time with the tree, but it's the light hitting the wall down near the ground that I found most interesting.
Yeah. So I feel a new project coming on for you, Morgan.
Yeah, that's right.
We're going to see that up next.
Right.
All right. So speaking about up next, we are working on our next Google Classroom that will then lead to hopefully another STEAM night. And we are working with an artist, another Paseo artist, Nina Lutz, and she is a graduate student at the MIT Media Lab, and she works with coding, and she does creates just amazing images and videos from coding. And so in our classroom, we're playing with how to create shapes and colors and make them move, and then special effects like, trailing your image. I personally am learning an incredible amount because I'm not a coder, but I think it's going to be another really fun and exciting project. And we're trying to keep things accessible. Like, when I first heard about that, I was like, coding, I don't know, I can't do it, but really we work together to make it accessible to, most anybody to understand how to do it. And, I've created my first little project, and it was, again, just really fun, a little bit challenging, but I feel like after I did it the first time, I could do it a second time a lot easier. I get it. And then you just create some really fun stuff. Did we, and then we don't have, Nina wasn't able, we were hoping that Nina might be able to join us this evening, but it doesn't look like she was able to. So you're just going to have to visit the Paseo website and keep in touch so that we, we can give you more information as it arises and as we get these projects completed and the classrooms completed. And at this point, I think if there are no questions about our project and what's coming up next, I'm gonna maybe pass it back to you, Matt.
Thanks, everyone. That was really fun. I was following along, and I might spend some of my Christmas break playing with some lights. Thanks, Morgan. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you all next time.
We'll see you next time.
Take care. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Be safe. Happy
Pleasure.
holidays. Enjoy the light.